Many people don't know the difference between cologne and perfume. Some people think they're exactly the same, but that's not really true. A lot of people think that cologne is only for men, and that's also not true. There are a few main differences, so obviously both of them are fragrances. Cologne is usually marketed towards men, but it doesn't have to be for men. A lot of colognes are unisex, some colognes are specifically for women. The main thing about cologne, which is sometimes known as eau de cologne, like cologne water, cologne was invented pretty much in the city of Cologne, which I believe is in Germany, in like the 1700s, around that time. And it's a relatively weak fragrance. It contains 2 to 4% of perfume oil, which is the stuff that, gives it a smell. The rest of it is mostly water and alcohol. The alcohol functions to separate the perfume oil so that the individual notes are more noticeable. Perfume is a bit different because it's generally stronger. Perfume can be as much as 20% perfume oil or as low as around 12%. Depends on what kind of perfume you're buying. So there's kind of a lot of discrepancies and misunderstood things regarding cologne and perfume. Cologne actually is not that popular because it's not very strong. So when you kind of find cologne, it usually comes in splash bottles where you could dip some into your hand and splash it on your face and neck, because you need to put a lot on for the smell to stick at all. Otherwise it'll just evaporate as soon as you put it on. So you need to put on way more than regular perfume. And splash bottles are not that popular anymore. Cologne in general is not that popular. There's still some cologne out there, but most people prefer the more potent formulations, which is perfume. And there's also the marketing thing, because the word cologne, most people think men's cologne, and then women's perfume. There's kind of a discrepancy there, even though cologne is basically just a weaker type of perfume. And the thing is that if you look at a lot of men's fragrances, it won't say cologne. It will have either eau de parfum perfume or eau de toilette perfume on it. It won't say cologne usually. There are some that will say eau de cologne, which that name just means it's 2 to 4% perfume oil. It's relatively light and weak. But most of the time for men's fragrances and women's fragrances, it will say something to do with perfume or parfum, the actual French term. And basically cologne is, it won't last very long because it is on the weaker side. It will last maybe 4-ish hours, maybe 5, but probably not that long, but more long 4 hours or less. And cologne is enjoyed both by men and women. It's pretty much just something very light, just to give yourself some sort of a fragrance. Perfume is more for if you want to show off the fragrance that you're wearing. Then you could choose, what do you want to wear, that sort of thing. And this is not to say that all colognes are bad and, not worth it, that sort of, not really, because some colognes are, formulated, crafted well, but you do have to go into it knowing that this isn't going to last very long. So you might not want to spend too much money on cologne because, why would you want to spend a lot of money on something that is going to fade within the next few hours? At least with perfume, especially the higher concentrations, it can last 8-9 hours, sometimes 10 hours. But cologne is more of a casual thing. It's not, especially not for the evening, because it's not going to last all evening. And it's just a kind of a day fragrance, and more for personal enjoyment, because most people won't be able to smell cologne on you because it doesn't emanate too much. The silage is kind of weak. So the good news is that most clones are relatively cheap. You don't need to spend an arm and a leg to get any cologne, in contrast to perfume, which can be pretty expensive. So, one is not necessarily better than the other. It's just perfume in general is more popular, more favored. Cologne is just kind of an older alternative that isn't really used too much anymore. I only own one type of cologne. You can kind of see the green bottle right there on the shelf is my Emerald bottle. Emerald from Coty, which is an eau de cologne, and it's pretty... because it's cologne, it's on the weaker side, but I do like it because, it has that light, it has citrus notes, everything about it is light. It even has musk notes, but they are light, so it's not too overwhelming, too heavy or anything. It's a bit powdery. But, having cologne is just a nice, you spritz it up and enjoy the scent sort of thing. Or splash it on, whatever. And it's not a big investment overall. You can enjoy it without regretting having bought it. Unlike perfume, sometimes you spend a lot of money on perfume and you don't like it, so it's a waste of money. But with cologne, you don't really have to worry about that. Sometimes you can get little samples, little splash bottles to sample, a cologne that you might like. And some brands do sell their perfumes in different concentrations. Say Shalimar, for example. I don't think they have cologne, but they have different concentrations of the same scent. So the original was an eau de toilette, which has around 12% perfume oil. Then they also have the eau de parfum, which is around 18% perfume oil. Then they have an extrait, which is an extract, and that has 20% perfume oil. If they had a cologne, which I don't believe they have, it would be 2 to 4%. And that's, much lighter, not as heavy, not as intense, that sort of thing. So, and it really depends on what you prefer. Some people don't like very intense smells. They don't like dealing with the same smell for many hours. Some people just prefer, a very light scent that will kind of drift off eventually on its own. So in that case, a cologne would be the better option. And if you do want to buy cologne, you have to be kind of specific when searching on the internet, because say you type in men's cologne, the stuff that pops up most likely is actually perfume. It'll say, Parfum something, or eau de toilette or something. So you have to be more specific and make sure the bottle actually says eau de cologne or cologne, and that's how you know that's the real deal. But other than that, that's pretty much the main difference between cologne and perfume. They're pretty much the same thing, except perfume is stronger, cologne is weaker. Mainly has to do with the concentration of the perfume oil, and that's about it. So if you have any kind of ideas or opinions about, cologne or perfume or the difference between them, you can always leave a comment down below. If you liked the video, leave a like, maybe subscribe, and I make videos throughout the week, so stick around for those.